in this panel, we really want to look at investment and how they can trigger growth for emerging economies, making sure that they go from recipient of aids to masters of their own prosperity. And I'd like to start with a question to both of you, and it's really looking at investment as a tool, as a strategic tool for strategic sovereignty and prosperity. How is it playing out at the moment, given the geopolitical shifts that we're seeing? A question to both of you.
Go ahead. Okay, well, thanks very much. The truth is, the bank I work for, based in Beijing, is 10 years old, and it was set up on the initiative of China, but as an Asian bank with the UK, with France, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, all as shareholders, India, a very large shareholder, because of the huge gap in funding infrastructure across Asia. So we predate the cuts, we predate Trump, but that doesn't mean that the work we're doing is all the more important. And we believe in investment because if people have a return on their investment, more money will continue to flow. If it's, as we're seeing with the cuts in USAID or the abolition of the UK Department for International Development, government money doesn't always keep flowing, but investors' money does keep flowing. And so what we're doing at the Asian Infrastructure Bank is investing in the operating system of the economies we support across Asia and beyond. And we're trying to do it by being lean, i.e. very efficient, by being clean, by moving towards net zero, but also operating to the highest standards of global governance. And then we're trying to be green. So we're very proud of what we're doing. We're growing rapidly. We have $70 billion worth of investments out there at the moment. And in the next few years, we plan to increase that dramatically. And just one point, I mean, this isn't just about roads and bridges and airports and digital infrastructure or health infrastructure. In the end, this is about the welfare of millions of people across Asia and beyond. 85% of the global population will live in the global south by the middle of this century, and they deserve infrastructure. One little example of something we've done is AIIB has financed a satellite which now orbits over Indonesia and connects millions of people across the archipelago with the internet for the first time.
Thank you for bringing it back to people as well. A very, very important point to make. Dr. Obaid, what are you doing in this context? How are you adjusting to the changing context?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, I would like to thank for having me today. I think I totally agree with the gentleman here. There is a gap. We can, sense this gaps, from our, 50 years working with Middle East, especially in Arab world. We are a sovereign funds. We are, specialized sovereign funds. We are funding purely the food security in Arab world. What we'd like to highlight today is there is a gap, certainly. For instance, in Sub-Sahara, we've got around, $150 billion gaps, in financing, for example. There is a big players in financings, but the problem with this, they are financing just 5% only from the total demands. So what I'm certain here is, the shortage in financing is big. We'd love to have, the financial institutions, private financial institutions, to take part of these, bridging the gaps and these, big gaps. Mobilizing financial sourcing is, tremendously very important. And we'd love to see, more funds, more, financial institutions taking part of, financing the projects in Africa and Middle East to bridge these gaps nowadays,
Going back to Sir Sherard, you spoke about, just touched on some of the work that the bank is doing and the young history as well of the bank. In your experience, in the history of the bank, which have been the most catalytic projects?
Well, it's very difficult to choose. We've got over
Good problem to have.
We've got over 300 projects operational at the moment. We've got plans for hundreds more, and all of them in different ways have made a difference in some of the poorest countries across South Asia. Our biggest borrower is India. One of our second largest shareholder is India. I mean, the key point, and the point that Dr. Obaid was making so rightly, is if you want to sustain this sort of investment, people have to make money out of it. And so we pay a return. We had a bond issue in London the other day that was 3 times oversubscribed. And we work with other MDBs, with the World Bank, the Arab Fund for Development, the Asian Development Bank. We work with the private sector. About 40% of our projects crowd in private sector investment. So we operate collaboratively, coherently. We use our expertise to build the financial structures which will attract investment from the private sector as well as from sovereign investors.
And just as a follow-up on what you just said, you just spoke about the bond emission in London.
Yeah.
You said it was 3 times, I think, oversubscribed.
Yeah.
Was that your expectation? Do you see this trend continuing, or?
Well, we hope so. We pay competitive rates. I'm not in our treasury function. I'm not watching the markets every day. But we've been very encouraged by the demand for AIIB paper. We're opening an office in Hong Kong. We have an office here. I should have mentioned, I hope that some of the water we've been drinking today came from desalination plants in the Gulf that have been funded by AIIB. So, no, I mean, the trend is very much upwards, rapid growth. But as Dr. Obaid said, the infrastructure funding gap globally stretches into trillions of dollars. Exactly. And it affects people across the global south.
Let's then go back to Dr. Obaid. Indeed, Sir Sherard spoke about this gap. Financing, in a way, is only part of the picture, right? It's also how the financing then blends into with the country priorities and projects long-term targets and returns. How do we make sure that new investments indeed advance national priorities and don't actually cause harm? So projects that are not parachuted from the top without taking care or taking into account of the local context and needs.
Yeah, this is what we are, mixing our strategy, to take care of, development side of, these projects. So we are taking care of, the society, provide more employment rates, more capacity buildings programs, along with, the establishing the project. So our programs focus on the equity financing rather than, loan finance, and get rid of, these projects as soon as possible with maximum profits. No, we are certainly staying for a long period and make sure, the society is, enriching and benefit from these projects in terms of, retain on social affairs and turn on, their wealth as well. I'll give you an examples. For example, AAID is having, for a long period, microfinance modules in Sudan, as well in Jordan and Mauritania as well. So the feedback from these projects, really it gave us, the ambitious to go on, to be more creative, to deliver, varieties of, mechanisms. Recently, we have launched, the platform for crowdfundings and microfinance as well with with big players, equity and others. We have also funds specialized to microfinance in Arab world as well. So the message is, we need to see what is the policy, what is the financial regulation is there in these markets, and how to penetrate these markets with a confidence, with more confidence that these markets having care with the disclosure, for example, implementation of accounting standards, disclosure standards, corporate governance standards, and so on. So the disseminations of the data as well, disclosure of financial statements, it's very crucial in a way of make these projects very successful. So the foreign investors can make sure his projects will be successful, and it achieve the targets of either the development targets and the financing targets to get the return he's looking for. So what I'm going to say is we need to move from the charity. I know there is a big players in Middle East, Africa, and so on. They are providing financing. IFM, World Bank's institutions is there. But the problem with these institutions, they are more charity based than business based. So we need to move from the charity based to fundings on a private sector basis. That is the focal points here.
A very good point, and I think a point that a lot of people are now discussing, given the contraction that we're seeing in the aid sector. Sir Sherard, Dr. Obaid mentioned the word governance. The question I have for you is how these multi-million-dollar projects that the bank is deploying in countries play a role in also strengthening the governance of the countries where they are implemented, if they do in a way.
Well, as I said, Paul, infrastructure is the operating system of the economies which we support. In order to govern, you need systems to deliver what people want and need. Hukuma in Arabic is almost the same word as hikmah, wisdom. And it's wisdom that you need to have these sort of operating systems. So, as I said, we are funding the building of roads and bridges, railways, airports, ports, desalination plants. But we're also doing more and more for non-visible infrastructure, digital infrastructure, I mentioned, for example, in Indonesia, education infrastructure, and health infrastructure, because we know that in the end, this is about the health and wealth and welfare of ordinary people. And that's what we're doing. And what is so encouraging is that the demand from investors for our paper, for our projects, is so high. And part of that is because the three global rating agencies have each, year in, year out, given us AAA ratings. So they regard us as a safe bet, but also as a rewarding bet.
As a trusted partner.
Yeah,
which is not to be taken for granted at this moment in time. Sir Sherard, Dr. Obaid, thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely talking to you. And I'll introduce you to the next session, which is called Emerging Economies. Tell the story of the future with Mark Eramo from S&P Global. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.